Welcome as we look at the Gospel of John with eyes for Generation Z. My name is Tanita Maddox, and we're going to read through the Gospel of John, keeping in mind 6 key questions that Generation Z is asking based on their values and worldview, and 2 key questions they're asking about God. So we'll go through each chapter, highlighting which questions that chapter of John addresses, and how the Gospel answer those questions. The goal of this project is to uncover and share a relevant Bible reading and gospel to Generation Z, and also to show that the Bible is relevant, is applicable, is life-changing to all people everywhere, including this next generation.
Welcome as we look at John chapter 1 with eyes for Generation Z. One of the tools I am using as we go through the Gospel of John is this commentary, the Gospel of John by Frederick Dale Bruner. I highly recommend it. So in review, here are the 6 questions we're keeping in mind that Gen Z is asking. Am I safe? Am I enough? Or rather, am I enough to be valued and loved by God? Will you accept me? Does God care about all people, or do all people matter to God? What is truth? Looking at truth in the concept of personal freedom. And can I trust you? The 2 questions that we're going to look at that relate to God is, can you prove God is real? And is God good? So we're going to start off with looking at John chapter 1 in the very beginning. This is one of the big, what we call Christological passages, a passage that really addresses who Jesus is, his divinity, his humanity, and his place in the Trinity. And while I may not start with this as a club talk, I can address 3 different questions that Gen Z is asking in this passage. The 3 questions we're going to look at is, can I trust you? Do all people matter to God? And am I enough? In other words, am I enough for God to see me or to value me? When we look at John chapter 1, 1 through 5, we are answering the question, can I trust you? Is Jesus who he said he is? And this is just a part of the Bible where John's writing and saying, Jesus was with God and he is God. He took part in creation and is creator. So he is really holding up that we can trust that Jesus is who he says he is because he took part in these things that only God can do. We also can trust that God is powerful. He talks about the light shines into the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it, which means we can trust that there is nothing more powerful than God himself. That darkness, which we're familiar with, I think that's an abstract idea, but also concrete. We've been in dark places, dark rooms. And so this idea that the light has shined into the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it is saying, can I trust God? Yes, I can trust God because God is even more powerful than darkness. That the light of God cannot be overcome by the darkness. That yes, we can trust God. He is powerful enough to handle everything in our life and beyond our life, the things I'm scared about, the things I'm angry about, the things I want justice for, the things I need. He is more powerful than all those things. I can trust God because his power is beyond that. Now, one place we can look at the question, do all people matter to God? Which is in verse 9, say the true light, which gives light to everyone, which is a small passing sentence. But let's be clear, it's for every single person. But he does not withhold his light from certain populations, certain geographies, certain cultures, certain times in history, but gives his light to every person, which answers the question, yes, all people matter to God. He shines his light for all people. And then the question, am I enough? Am I enough for God to love me, to value me? Anyone who believes in God and receives God is received by God, accepted by God, and is called a child of God. I mean, that's just mind-blowing to be adopted into, like what we just said before, the most powerful father is saying, you can be my child. And all you have to do is believe and receive me. So am I enough? There's no other qualifications to getting to become a child of God, getting to be accepted by God, except to believe him and to receive him, as John lays out here. The last part of John 1, we're going to look at Jesus calls Philip and Nathaniel. The key question we are going to examine from Gen Z's view is, can I trust you? Now, in this section, we really see Philip has met Jesus and is going back to tell Nathaniel about it. And Nathaniel's question, can anything good come out of Nazareth, really already shows a bias, right? Like, how can anything good come from that place? It's impossible that God would associate him with that place, which really also brings in a little bit of a taste of, do all people matter to God? Does God care about all people? He didn't pick this really fancy, well-known, intellectual, powerful place that someone would say, of course, the Messiah, of course, the King, of course, God would choose that place, but instead chooses a place where someone responds who's from like the similar neighborhood, who's like, how can anything good come from that? And Philip says, come and see. So I like about this is the answering the question, can I trust you, is there's no hiding. Philip doesn't say, well, trust me, just trust what I have to say. You don't need to check it out for yourself. There's an invitation to come see it for yourself. We want you to come and see an authentic picture of God with your own eyes. Philip is inviting Nathaniel, hey, you don't take my word for it. There is nothing to hide here. Go check it out for yourself. If there was something to hide, if God was someone we shouldn't trust, if Jesus is someone we shouldn't trust, there would be more of a resistance to invite and check it out. But one of the things we'll see repeatedly as we go through John and even other parts of the Bible is an invitation to come and see. So what Bruner really comments about is that as John is writing the gospel and is teaching us how to share Christ with others, he really is saying, invite the question answers to come check it out for himself. He calls it an honest investigation of the facts, that we can trust God because there's nothing to hide. We can trust God because we're free to ask questions and investigate for ourselves. And that is good news to a generation who is used to a facade, filters, altered information, and we are inviting them to research a God who invites them to check him out for themselves.